in language learning paper. We are going to connect it to Bitfari and see how it's relevant to the ecosystem. So as you can see on this video of this YouTube video, um, Melissa, which is a manager, sales manager for Best Buy, is talking about how Best Buy started selling in Spanish in their Dallas store, and how that essentially doubled their sales. So I'm gonna be linking to this video because the stories that we did for Best Buy and the data that we analyzed on the Dallas store actually was the basis for the construction of this framework. Mind you, we had available data from multiple stores, multiple Best Buy stores. Since it's such a large chain, we were able to analyze a very large set of data and create a very, very comprehensive framework, which you're gonna see in a bit. So this was a pretty important case that was conducted with Best Buy in partnership with Rosetta Stone and the Darden School of Business, which is one of the leading business schools in America. The paper ended up being featured by Bloomberg Business Week at that time, which is probably one of the top, if not the top, business magazine in America, and one of the top business magazines of the planet. Now, this feature that the paper had here was called academic research with mass appeal. This came out in 2013, so roughly 1 year after the paper was published, and it was, about the benefits of teaching employees Spanish, how to sell in Spanish, and we were featured here along the likes, along Clayton Christensen, which is one of the top business experts of the planet. Now, as it pertains to our paper, it said on the article that at the University of Virginia Darden School of Business, the year's best-selling case study focus, and there's a link to the case study, focus on Best Buy HR manager in Texas, that's Melissa, who sought to boost sales to Latinos. The case shows how the manager proposed to quantify to her bosses the financial return of using Rosetta Stone to teach the sales staff in Spanish. Now, out of all these papers, the only one that had sales data was our paper. And there are 5 papers featured here, so that's what we say, that it was one of the top 5 business papers published in America by sales on that year. In actuality, the paper sold at the top of business cases of the University of Virginia for more than 5 years. So there's that. It's really a blockbuster, like they say here. It's really a blockbuster case. So what is this paper, right? Because it has to be something very powerful, right? We are going to post this on multiple forums so that everybody that wants the paper can get access to the paper, right? Since this paper is being used for some calculations in Bitfari. The paper has a story about the store, how they started selling, and obviously my name is here, and the other writers are here as well. This was supervised by the Paul Tudor Jones Research Professors of Business Administration, Mr. Kenneth Heath, one of the top professors of finance in America. And so the idea is that we take all of this data, we create a story, and then we created a framework, which is here. So this is a framework that pertains to selling in a foreign language. So presumptively, you have tourists coming into your business, you have Latinos coming into your business, and you want to sell to them in their native language. Is that going to boost your sales or not? Is that going to make sense for you or not? Right? And then in Bitfari, what we do is that we extend this model to include the contextualization of sales. So we use this model not only to quantify the impact of translations in sales, but also the impact of contextualization, selling directly to kids in their language, selling directly to the elderly in their lingo, selling directly to tourists. How could that impact a business benefits? Um, every table is part of the framework, and there are some spreadsheets here that take public data. Since Rosetta Stone and Best Buy were both public companies at the time, we were able to access public balance sheet data to do all of the accounting, not only accounting for the increase in sales, but also you have to take into account the time that you will lose by training employees this language, the licensing costs of Rosetta Stones and all that jazz, expenses, right? And I think this was in millions, so it's a pretty important expense. And then the cost of this revenue, how much it's going to cost you to actually deploy this program at a national level and make gains from it, right? Um, and then there's a summarization, there's a summary about all of the multiple metrics that apply to that case. How will that impact the return on investment? How will that impact the bottom line of the business? So it's a highly detailed case. Um, this is something that really pertains only to translation and to language learning. So this part of the framework is only applicable to language learning. We took some parameters from here to extend it to contextualization. Some of them do apply, especially everything that has to deal with referrals. And then after finishing this, there's another part of the framework that takes into account turnover reduction. Now, turnover reduction is the reduction in employee lost. If you sell more, you're giving your salespeople more commissions, more bonuses, meaning that less of them quit because they're being more compensated. This is one of the gems of the story. Finding all of these details, finding all of these um, items, all of these attributes of a framework, and creating a highly detailed framework that can account for all of the changes that this new way of selling will bring into the business, right? And when you take account of that, all of this was measured at the Best Buy store. When you measure all of this, then you can actually forecast the metrics and the impact of selling contextually or selling using translations in your business. Increasing average revenue per customer. This is a typical one. This is not such a typical one. Satisfaction improvements, right? And this one takes into account attachments and upselling. Attachment is how long the customer will stay with you, and upselling is how much more things you will be able to sell to the customer because you're now selling in his native language. And there was another one that actually took into account referrals, how much you're selling because customers are referring you now to their friends and family. This was done for $40 stores, so not a trivial pursuit, a lot of data. This was done with everything. We had everything. We had human resources data, we had sales data, we had a lot of data for this analysis. That's why this paper was actually translated to 15 different languages, and it was highly syndicated. So when the paper gets published, it goes to the library of a business school, and it's now being used at a business school for teaching purposes. But it was actually syndicated, meaning the paper got placed in multiple libraries, like this one, like this one as well, like this one as well, and I think this one as well. It's also being sold by the Harvard Business School Library. I think this is another one. This is from my profile at the Google Scholar. Here you can read it for free, so I'm going to share this link and probably the document as well. This one is actually featured in the paper. This is StudyLib. It's also in Korean. I've seen it in Japanese. I've seen it in I think in Chinese as well. I've seen it in Russian as well. So it's a pretty popular. We're talking about probably one of the most popular papers of the year, and probably of last decade, right? It's really that big. Here is a page. I'm gonna link to this page as well. This is, press page on my blog, and here are some interviews about the paper. This was an AMA. This was another. It was like a follow-up article done by the New York Times where we briefly talk about that paper. Um, yeah, and there are like additional links that apply to that paper as well. Because every time I do an interview, people ask me about the big paper, and I just tell them, it was just a well-made paper, right? It just happened to be incredibly successful. Now, if you want the framework, I can share the Excel. So this has a framework. So this, you can change the numbers here to actually make it apply to your business, right? And then you can read how the thing is actually created, right? It's now on version 3, so there were like a couple of revisions done to the paper, so it's highly curated. There was also a comparison where the performance of Best Buy was measured against Radio Shack and other similar businesses. Obviously, Radio Shack is no longer in business, and Best Buy is, Best Buy successfully competed against Amazon. Was one of the few businesses that could compete against Amazon of that, in electronics, and they have pretty high interest coverage. This means they are very able to pay their debts. Very low risk free rate, very high market cap. Obviously not as big as Amazon, but substantially bigger than any of their immediate competitors. You see, the market cap is just huge. Only Target and Amazon on this list are bigger because they are naturally bigger businesses, and the WACC of these businesses is also bigger. This is the weighted annualized cost of capital. So it's another metric in finance that we use to actually see how expensive the capital of a business is. Very low cost of debt as well. Um, Moderate to high also return on investment. Very low cost of equity. It's really a detailed case. So if anything, it's truly one of the best business cases in the field, and one, it's a monumental achievement. It's truly a monumental achievement. It has 30 pages. I'm gonna share it in multiple links. As you can see, it was done by a team. So Keith Dickey was a student with me at the University of Virginia. Then Professor Ken was our supervisor. This is a mistake. Paul Tudor Jones was not with us in the team. It just so happens that Kenneth Emitz was a Paul Tudor Jones professor of business, and and the system just picks Paul Tudor Jones because he's in the keywords, and then they add him as a writer, but he wasn't with us in this. Jennifer Fraser was with us. She worked as a case reviewer, and Due Insider also worked as a case reviewer, and obviously Melissa worked with us as a case reviewer, um, and obviously a data provider, a big data provider. Um, we are really happy with the success of this academic work. We are very happy that we were able to adapt it to Bitfari, and that we are now quoting sound research and profound research. And we are confident that businesses that sell to Latinos in Spanish and that use translations are going to be able to sell more significantly. And we are very happy that we are able to offer for free a framework which is academically validated, and it's a framework that businesses could use to actually figure out how much more they are going to sell. Finally, let me just show you a couple of things. Um, I wanted to talk briefly about parallel reality screens, sorry, and I wanted to talk about AR glasses briefly. So, parallel reality screens, this is from a company called Misapply Sciences. They debuted in the U.S. Last month. They have been in the works for I would say 5 years. These are screens that allow multiple people to see different things on the same screen. Bitfari is built to use cheap screens. So the way the system runs is that you have multiple screens. One of them will probably target Hispanics, one of them will probably target tourists, one of them will probably target children, one of them will probably target the elderly. Or maybe you only have one screen and then the ads just rotate on that screen. So you don't really need fancy screens to use Bitfari. But if you want to get fancy, you can buy a parallel reality screen, and these are screens that show different things to different people at the same time. So how does this work? Um, People create an ID. They either scan their cell phones, or they scan their iris, or they scan their face. They create an ID, and then when they enter the store or the airport, or any major location, this screen has a camera. Let me see if they have some pictures. They have a guide here. These screens have a camera that look at the person, and they project different pixels to that person. So a basic screen will project one color per pixel. A parallel reality screen will project a different color to each person depending on the orientation, right, of their face. Now, to determine the orientation of the face, this screen needs to have cameras on top. So it has multiple cameras, and the cameras are looking at you. And when they identify that you are looking at them, they scan your face, and then they just project the stuff that is relevant to you. Meaning that you could have one single screen, that is at the same time projecting stuff in English and Spanish. Right? With our framework, you can actually make a calculation and figure out if that's going to be of benefit to your business. If you're going to make money by, investing in maybe parallel screens and Bitfari, or investing in simple basic screens and Bitfari, right? We believe this is one of the possible futures, and we believe that this will be the most deployed type of screen in airports. And this was actually deployed roughly 3 weeks ago at one station, one terminal of Delta, at the Detroit airport, if I'm not mistaken. I guess I'll link to the article as well, so that you can review it. Now, having said that, this will become one possible reality, we heavily believe on AR glasses. Real glasses have been available in the US since last year, and we think that they are only going to keep getting better and better and better. When Apple releases their glasses, we are going to integrate with those. When Google releases a new type of glasses, we're going to integrate with those. When Facebook releases their glasses, we're going to integrate with those. So we are hardware agnostic, and that's something that we believe in Bitfari, because nobody knows where this is going to go, right? But we do know that if we invest in creating technology for these augmented reality glasses, then development costs for shipping a version on anything that Apple releases, or Google or Facebook, it's gonna be much less. Plus, we'll have staff that is trained in developing these kind of solutions, and they will have been battle tested, so they will be able to ship in those platforms faster with more reliability. So that's what we are shipping on Unreal now. Now, We strongly believe that these glasses are gonna do the trick right now for early adopters because they are just simply that good. They are really, really good. They are cheap today. They might be half price in 1 or 2 years, which is only going to accelerate their adoption. They cost right now $600. The appeal of these glasses is that they have like a studio. If you use the glasses, you can use them at home to see movies without having to purchase a huge smart TV. So it's like having an 80-inch TV for one third of the price. So that's really really appealing. That's it. That's it. I guess you know what this paper is about. You know what future we are targeting. You know how we connect all of these to Bitfari, and hopefully you get an idea, a sense of how big this was, and how this improves the selling proposition of our platform. Thanks for your attention, and remember to always bring life to your location.